Alrighty, order everyone. I think we'll open up the meeting. Just want to advise everybody present that there is an audio recording being made of this meeting. If all persons attending can be respectful and considerate of each other tonight, and that includes themselves, other persons attending the meeting. The language and conduct at this meeting that could be offended as offensive, defamatory or threatening to a person attending the meeting or listening to the recording is not acceptable. For the purposes of the recording, elected members should wait for the chair to announce their name before speaking. And I just want to request all mobile devices are either off or on silent. Thank you.
Chair, are the microphones permanently on now?
It does appear to be that way, yes.
Down here they're not. It's very hard to hear that.
No, we've turned your one off.
I realised that.
Does it amplify my voice?
No, you've got to be closer to it.
Okay.
Try that.
All right. Now, just note all those members who are present tonight. We have Councillor Posselt, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Harvey, Alderman Bluefield, Councillor Dutta, Councillor Sherlock, Councillor Elliott and Alderman Zuko, and myself, Councillor Lohberger. Now, CEO, do we have any apologies?
Yes, we have an apology from Councillor Kitsos.
Okay, thank you. And I just note there are no leave of absences either. All right, we'll just move on to acknowledgement of country. In recognition of the deep history and culture of this place, I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which the city of Hobart was built. I acknowledge the determination and resilience of the Palawa people of Tasmania, who have survived invasion and dispossession and continue to maintain their identity, culture and rights. I recognise the value of continuing Aboriginal knowledge and cultural practice, and I pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. Thank you. Now, confirmation of minutes. Can I invite an elected member to move a motion to confirm the minutes? So moved. Councillor Sherlock. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All right, that's passed. Now, consideration of supplementary items. CEO, do we have any supplementaries?
No, Chair.
No, thank you. Right, moving on to indications of conflict of interest. Do any elected members wish to indicate an interest in any item appearing on the open agenda? That's a no. Thank you all. Item 5, transfer of agenda items. Are there any items proposed for transfer either on the open or the closed agenda? Looks like a no as well. So we'll move on to officer reports. Item 6. So we have a progress update on the Hobart Transport Strategy. I just want to invite the Director of Strategic and Regulatory Services up to the table to introduce the item. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Dan Dow, who's Manager of Transport, and Ali, who's assisting to give you the details of our progress over the past year.
Fabulous. Thank you. All right.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Is the volume okay?
Just have to speak close to the microphone. Just bring it across.
Okay. So we're here today because in July of last year, the Council endorsed the Hobart Transport Strategy 2024. And we're taking an opportunity 12 months later to give an update to the workshop on what's been accomplished thus far and what we are looking ahead to this next year. There we go. All right, the transport strategy guides our delivery over the next 5 years of the transport projects, programs, policies and partnerships that will provide choice in how we move around Hobart. It has 71 actions named, and these are centered on the themes that you see in this diagram. Creating safe and healthy streets for all, enabling behavior change, creating a transport system that's climate ready and that is also able to work with the emerging themes to help our city, again, achieve that what's at the heart of this strategy, the choice and how we move. The strategy has identified 13 key priority actions to deliver on right out the gate. And this slide is outlining where we're standing with those 13 key actions, with one circle being that we've begun work there, with 2 circles filled in as something that we see is well underway within the team or across the city. 3 circles filled in meaning it's complete, and the one with the little arrows hopefully meaning ongoing work. Hopefully that comes across as that at least. So I want to say that importantly, not all the work that we've been doing has been limited to just these 13 actions. We've also been making some accomplishments throughout the rest of the 71 that's there within the strategy. And I'm not going to go through in detail what these are showing, realizing that you have the ability to do this at your leisure, but just can highlight some of the key accomplishments, like having an e-bike library debut this year, and making progress on our lamps, coming out with the Park My Ride, Hobart's live parking availability map, things like these that all help to further the strategy. And it's a long list, there we go. Okay, so I do want to say that many of the 13 key priority actions have yet still some work to go, but those that are highlighted, we believe that we've achieved the action, or that the work on them now will be within business as usual. And we're proposing to kind of remove from this list and add these additional ones that are from the strategy. So noting that Action 10, to expand our open data sources and empower our community to develop knowledge and capability in transport, took a big step forward with the addition of a team member, the Urban Active Transport Strategy Officer, to the City Transport team this fiscal year. And that new colleague of mine will be able to focus a lot on the transport data, as well as monitoring our e-rideable e-scooters, e-bikes. And the second and the third additional strategy actions that we propose to add are very similar, but they're both looking at having us collect data on the curbside and how that's being utilized. Color in that picture. The first one focuses with a partnership, in partnership with the Department of State Growth, looking at how we can optimize our public transport usage along that curbside. And then the second one looks along that data lens again, making sure that we kind of get that baseline of our curb throughout Hobart and can share that data meaningfully with the community. So I also want to take this presentation and key it back to the work that we are doing in the annual plan, so that you can see how the strategy is influencing these projects up here. The light blue that you can see signifies planning work that's being done. The darker blue is signifying the project delivery. So this is only showing work that's underway with this fiscal year. We have work on the lamps in Mount Nelson, more EV charging work, connections to the proposed Sandy Bay passenger ferry terminal. So these are all things that would be familiar with that annual plan moving us forward right now. And I also want to show just how deep the work continues to be within the team. So not only are we working on those, but we've been taking projects from strategic documents, earlier lamps, earlier neighborhood plans, earlier school access travel plans, to bring those projects named in conjunction with the community into project development. So these projects are all ones that are in the 2025 to 2026 work plan. that we are working on right now. You'll see some exciting ones to tackle the footpaths around some of our center city areas, as well as throughout the community. Leave it up there for a little bit. I also wanted to thank the team that we have here. This presentation went to our City Transport Committee of community members, and so I would also like to thank them, since it was given to them. I didn't include them on the slide, but we really appreciate the time that those community members have given as a discussion, as well as the internal colleagues that are on our transport strategy steering group and who are helping to guide the work that we're doing to move forward the strategy. Okay. With that, are there any questions related to the points made here, or
Lord Mayor?
Thank you, and thanks for a really amazingly detailed report. I really like all the way the information is presented really graphically. It really it's helpful for understanding things. Couple of questions. One was just around the staff, the team, and getting a sense of what different roles people have. Can you tell me what you've got 3 technical officers, traffic. What's an example of their kind of day? Like, what are they responsible for?
I might take that one. Yeah, so thank you. Good question. Through your chair. So the technical officers deal with a lot of permits. So they basically, so I'll backtrack. We split our team into 2 sort of parts. One's a transport operations part, and one's a transport planning. So given it's only 11, we've got 11 staff, there's a bit of crossover between. But yes, so we do focusing around that operations. That includes road closure permits and various other sort of permits that get applied for the road space. So if there's anyone who wants to occupy the roadway, excavation in the roadway, DAs, we do a lot of work in the DA space. There's a lot of that sort of work, and we were looking at some data today. We've had so far this calendar year, so since 1 January, over 1,700 permits applied to the city that we've processed. Massive amounts. I think that equates to sort of 3/4 of the whole permits that we issue as a city. So the team and the 3 in those sort of roles, along with our lead in our transport operations, Shivani, who's with us tonight, they do a bulk of those, and it's a big body of work. So yeah.
Thank you. Just another question. I'm just wondering, like, in terms of the hard infrastructure that's going in, which I think is on page 19 of the report. There's lots of, in some ways, I mean, there's obviously some big ambitious things that we still don't know, whether they're going to happen, and, they're still being worked on, like the Battery Point Walkway, etc. And then there seems to be kind of things around footpaths and connections and this sort of thing. I guess I'm wondering when do you think we'll see more pedestrian priority crossings in our city? Because, like, I was walking around over the weekend, North Hobart and Elizabeth Street, really full of people over the weekend, just constant stream of traffic, and there's only the one,
Patrick Street.
Oh no, this is in North Hobart. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
And I've recently also been in Hill Street, and again, that was more during the week, just constant stream of traffic. As a pedestrian, it's really quite a difficult environment.
Yeah.
When are we actually and I know we did put some pedestrian priority crossings down in Salamanca a couple of years ago now, or earlier this year, whenever it was, which was great. But I have we got a more, I don't want to use the word aggressive, but like a more ambitious goal of rolling out some more of these pedestrian priority crossings in areas which are heavily pedestrianised?
We do, yeah, again through you, Chair. To answer that question, we do. So what you can see up here on the screen is the 25-26 program. So as part of the Good Work Council doing more broadly, we've got plans for a 4 and 10-year infrastructure plan. We feed this work into that plan. So this is year one, effectively, the work we're doing in year one. What you've seen there is basically everything we're doing this year, but there's other projects that will start next year that will be the next suite. And they come from the strategic planning exercise, so the LAMP and the School Access Travel Plan, or the local TNOP, or the strategy itself, or some other mechanism. But we're trying to guide things based on that because the important thing to council, and what we've heard loud and clear, is less plans, more doing. So we're trying to turn all those plans that you have endorsed into the actions on the ground. So they do link heavily back. But this is just year one. There is then year 2, year 3, year 4. But that's a big body of work just to do that, in addition to the existing renewals that our city infrastructure people are doing as well.
I guess what I'm seeing a little bit in the current infrastructure is there's lots of these kind of continuous footpaths in sort of quieter areas, but have we also got plans for pedestrian priority, wombat crossings, more of them in Hill Street, more in these places where you have constant streams of traffic and pedestrians trying to get across? And
Short answer is yes.
yeah, good. Because I think we had an outstanding council decision, for example, to have more pedestrian priority crossings in Hill Street.
So as part of without jumping ahead to the next year,
Yeah,
we're
it's in
neck
there.
deep in West Hobart.
Okay, great. And I think that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Do we have any further questions? Alderman Bloomfield was first, and then Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. Look, I'm just curious. I read through quite a lot of this, and it felt a lot like the CBD had been developed as yet another suburb rather than something that has, what's the word? It has much more high intensity points rather than, do you know what I mean? Like high density traffic, and then it comes back down to low, then it goes back up to high. Whereas suburbs are more gentle with their loads. So, but it doesn't seem to be designed well to allow for the high intensity, high loads and then come back down. The other thing that I was worried about was there was almost no mention whatsoever about freight, and freight is directly linked into productivity. So I would have expected to have seen more addressing of that in the CBD section. And I have a strange question for you. Coming here this afternoon, we go through the scramble sections because that's just how we travel through. And I was actually quite surprised to note that cyclists are actually using the scrambles. Is it supposed to be that that's for cyclists as well as walking people, or is it for cyclists as well?
So we've currently got a live question with the Transport Commission because there is some confusion. We're getting conflicting advice.
Okay.
So we're once and for all seeking an answer on that. It's not our decision, it's the Transport Commission's direction under the Road Rules 2019, and there is confusion.
Yeah, because
So we need clarity, so then as we deliver that project as well, and then we can give the community some clarity.
that'd be good, because I was actually quite surprised to see 2 of them, and they're not exactly slow, so it just felt counterproductive to what I think you were trying to achieve. So it was really to do with that, and also too, given that recent accident that happened in Criterion Street, which really was a bit concerning. I understand it had been installed for a while. I understand that the borders had kind of navigated themselves a little bit too much onto the road, and that's how come they got clipped. But where does that fit into everything? Like, is that a workplace safe issue? Should that have gone to be considered for safety and so forth, or is that something that we just...
It's probably not, through your chair, not really for today. So we have, there is some work going on in that space, but probably not for today.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I thought some of my questions might be a bit too granular for that. Yeah, so it was really to do with...
with your first one, the guiding principle document, I know you're aware that the Transport Network Operations Plan, that should be the CBD guidance around how do we want to move people through and around the city.
Except
so
that
that's the guiding document.
Except that feels it's designed to create a suburb, not a city. And that's what my problem was with it, in the fact that when we broaden pavements and we put all these other pieces in, we forget that there's high intensity traffic, and then it goes back down to low and so forth. It's like we're devising a suburbia where people live in it, but the thing is, this is where we actually do business, and it's supposed to be a high productive area. It's not high productive if we're throwing business out and inserting a whole lot of real estate. I mean, it's quite concerning, for instance, that the police station, they're uprooting and moving out to Cambridge. I don't know anything more than that, but I was quite concerned to see an entire public service sector has decided they no longer want to be in the city, they now want to be out at Cambridge. I mean, that's a loss for our city. So what's going on there? Do we have any information on that?
That's the first time hearing that.
That was...
Chair, if I may,
Yeah.
Alderman Dunfield.
Councillor Fossell.
I understand that that's somewhat a direction of state government, that multiple state agencies have been directed to move out of the city to save costs. So ambulance has shifted a huge amount of their operations out as well. I think justice as well, and it's actually an issue that the city should take up along with Glenorchy and all the other municipalities, because if they were moving to activated centres, be that Bellerive or Kingston or Rosny Hill or Glenorchy city centre, then fine. But they're going to a paddock and they're not activating any of the businesses, and I think the state government's making a terrible mistake, and there doesn't seem to be much noise about it at all. But well done picking it up. It's very important.
I think it's quite damning, to be honest. I think it just speaks to the fact that if it's cheaper to develop something on a greenfield site than it is to develop in our own city, what have we done wrong? What have we done that actually has stopped these?
I think we're sort of getting away from the expertise of the officer with this stuff, Alderman Bloomfield. Did you have any more questions?
No, it's all right. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move on to Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. Just on that point there, we should be chasing the police department like a red heat-seeking missile to find out exactly what's happening there. And you don't have to be any Einstein to see the amount of businesses that are moving out to Cambridge now. Big flat level sites, good transport system and all that. It is a super major concern, and I'm deeply disturbed at that, so I'd recommend we take an action with that as soon as we can. Look, this is a great report. It's comprehensive and well done. I guess though, if someone from interstate, you're walking into town today or driving, the first thing you'd say is, wow, this is so congested. Whether you like cars or not, that is the here and now of what's happening in town. Major congestion. And to me, it appears it is actually getting worse. So I just wonder if we have a congestion busting plan, or is there more importantly a timeline that we can say that to drive from point A to point B at the moment takes X period of time. We've got to have these metrics, I believe, where we can do that at this time in the 9 a.m. or whatever time periods they are, so we can compare that in 6, 12 months or whatever, and have a goal that by the year X, that won't be happening. Everyone will be riding bikes or walking, or it'll be public transport or whatever. To me, we're lacking this real meaty discussion about the big elephant in the room, and that is this absolute damning congestion, which no one seems to talk about,
Yeah, there's a few thirds to that. So one is the roads leading into the city. Obviously, we don't control the Booker, Tasman, the Southern Outlet. They carry 30,000 plus vehicles in the AM, and they all send them out in the PM. So that's outside of our day-to-day regulatory control. Where we do control is our city streets, and they interact with each other. So the important piece that we've done, council and state government working together, is to develop that transport network operating plan to say, when everyone arrives, how are we going to move everyone around? So once you arrive, you've got 30,000 cars, and that equates to about 40,000 people, plus those that then arrive through other means, walking, bus, other things. So there's tens of thousands of people moving around the city. So we're going to try and make sure they all play nicely together. So that's the way we've built that team up. And best practice is everyone wins a prize, it's just not necessarily the same prize. So you can't necessarily drive down Elizabeth Street and get green light. You can't do that. But geez, as a bus passenger, you're getting a good level of service down Elizabeth Street due to the headway and due to the way we sort of run our buses. Pedestrians also get a great run down Elizabeth Street as an example. It's our pedestrian core. Cars, we've got a sort of triple B that we've been investing in with the state government. We've been investing in both signal infrastructure and signal timing. So through the work that we did, particularly pedestrian only phase, I think we saw a 20% increase in traffic. Then they'll start to use, let's get the B right, Barrack Street to get out in the PM because of the way we've synchronised the lights. For example, the Barrack Street, Macquarie Street gets 46% green time now. So if you're trying to get out of the city, we recommend to do that. And we've done that not only through the signal to make it self-evident, but also put signs up as well. So we've now got signs on Murray Street pushing people that way. So you're completely right. We need to be able to measure. We need to be able to understand. That's really important, which is why we've introduced that as one of our next key actions to do in the next 12 months, because we want to understand more ourselves, but also share that information with the punters as well.
And the key metric that anyone would want to know, how long is it going to take
Yep.
me to go from point A to B? You get in a bus and it's got its timeline, or train stations around
Yep.
the world, and you'll be at this station at this point, you'll definitely arrive in the CBD at this point. To me, there's no...
And we do have that, and we do have those signs out on all the highways.
I haven't seen, no, for a car person. You might have you get on Google Maps, it tells you your walking distance and all that sort of stuff. It'd be good to know, just that to me is the most salient stat I could see, is to drive from wherever to wherever, at point A through the CBD at this given time. And we can compare. To me, we've got no way of comparing that. You might have numbers of vehicles, which is a relevant point, but the main thing is, how long does it take? And to me, I don't see those stats.
So just to reiterate, we do have signs. So there's 12, I think they're called Otis on-road travel information signs dotted around our key highways. The state government have put that in place, and they provide exactly what you're describing. So if I'm driving down the southern outlet, I know how long it takes to get to the airport because it tells me that. And not only numbers, but also gives a colour. So some of them are starting to give colour coding around. Is it expected?
I'm talking down in CBD in Hobart LGA. Just a comment.
Yeah, so we do collect that data as well. So we know how long it takes to get someone down Murray Street to the southern outlet, down the different streets.
That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah.
I guess. To me, that's simple, it's understandable, and it's something I can quantify.
Yeah.
You know.
So Tina, it's quicker to go down Bathurst Street than it is Murray Street.
Yeah.
And that's the message we're trying. So rather than give people numbers, which can be
that's right. Numbers don't mean
so,
anything really to me.
and that's why we're trying to put signs up to support where the best and quickest. People don't want to be stuck at traffic lights. People want to go. If you're in a car, you want to get green lights. So what we're telling people, there are really good routes to drive where you get green, effectively green waves out of the city. That's where we should be sending our people. So I completely agree. But I think getting into that detail. So if you go back to it's number 64 of one of the actions. So you're spot on. We do need to unpack that more. Same as what we've done with the Part My Ride, which has been really successful because all of a sudden our information is everyone's information. We're being really transparent with our data. We want to do the same with a lot of different data sources. Really empower people.
It's all about the data to me.
Yeah, I love data as well. So music to my ears.
That's fantastic. Any more questions? One from the Lord Mayor.
I just want to get if the CEO's got any knowledge about the state government, and it's a little bit off the topic, but the police and the police building and all that sort of stuff. Do you have any sense about what the state government's up to? And
well, they haven't engaged with us, Lord Mayor. So to take that point on, we're certainly happy to take it up on behalf of the council, but they haven't involved us in their conversations or decision making.
I think that seems to be the feeling around the table. So you could do that. Councillor Posselt.
Thank you, Chair. Just a really quick one. Thanks to the team for all the great work. It looks like we've achieved quite a lot in a short period of time. But more broadly, I haven't seen any information displayed to Council in my time here in this kind of Gantt chart-esque that you've done, which is, feedback-wise, I find it really helpful to see, that kind of projects, where they're up to, where the estimated completion is, so like the Augusta cycleway plan, for me to have, because people ask me questions, when's it happening, for us to have these types of charts, I actually think is really helpful and probably one of the most useful charts I've seen since I've been here. So thanks for presenting the data in that way. It'd be great to see that rolled out around other departments as well.
It's good feedback, and it kind of picks up on that sort of. It's connecting the plan because it's and I get frustrated too. It's like less plans, more doing. So what we're trying to do through this visual is show the plans were really important, by doing the plans, it's enabled us to start the planning and design work for the project, and then that obviously has a lead in time to then deliver, so it's good feedback.
Yeah, no, that's really good, thank you.
All right, one last couple of questions. Okay, we'll start with the Lord. Actually, I think Alderman Bloomfield should go first.
I'll be quick, honestly. Basically, I just wanted to ask a little bit about accidents. I'm not really comfortable that I think we're getting the reports through, like from the police, and I don't know if the members of the public are necessarily reporting them, and that's a real concern if you're trying to design around keeping things safe. So that was one point. And the other point was, I just wanted to get confirmation, you might have more information than I do, around the hospital, that seems to have the highest pedestrian accidents rates, is that true? Or is,
I don't know off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
no, it certainly is
Just-
highest foot traffic, so that makes sense.
So I just feel that we should be very vigilant around that particular area. I think we've got people who are vulnerable, distressed, and all the rest of it. And yes, if we could prioritise the crash map data and ensure that we're actually getting that and that we're planning to that would be really important and relevant.
We can take that on board, that's really helpful. We do, so there is the crash data manager, which is the statewide crash system, which is regulated and operated by the Department of State Growth. So that's our source of truth as far as crash data. So we've got access and logins to that. But you're right, that's reliant on it being reported, and we would encourage you. Certainly at a car or vehicle accident level, they are most of the time reported. It's vulnerable road users which are somewhat underreported.
And that would be based on insurance, wouldn't it? Because if you have an insurance claim, you're going to have a report.
100%.
But cyclists, unless they have that particular insurance thing protecting them, they're not going to have anything, so they're not going to do anything.
My understanding, it's improved dramatically in the last 5 years, the reporting, so it's certainly getting better, but we've got a way to go.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mr Vidal. Lord Mayor, last question.
Yeah, sorry, just a couple of quick comments. So, to be one of these annoying people who's been around for a while, there have been previous council decisions. I remember one when we had the City Infrastructure Committee that there would be an annual report provided on accidents to council, and map where they are, and any actions that may or may not need to happen from that. And the second one that I think there was a previous council decision on was, or at least committee, was that we get some visibility of where we're going to be applying for the various state government vulnerable and state and federal vulnerable road users and black spots ahead of time, or just have some visibility of that, because that helps us to, when we're chatting with other politicians and others, that to get them a little bit enthusiastic about the projects we're putting forward, because it is competitive. And final question was just around the Augusta Road cycling connection. Does seem to go out with a very long line, longer than I thought we would be aiming for, to delivery in 2028. Is that?
So I'll go backwards. I'll start with the last question. So yeah, that is a significant project with a significant length. So we are planning to deliver that over multiple years. So we're currently planning. We hope to finish the planning to bring that to council early next calendar year, at which point we'll propose at this stage a 2-year delivery. And that gets you to 27, 28, 28, 29. It's sooner than you think. It's quite scary how close these
Unless
dates
there was
are.
federal government.
That's even
money.
including
Oh,
federal.
even including money.
Significant project. Second, yes, the short answer is yes, we do have an eye as to all these projects you can see now as part of our, putting these forward within our own capital program. We do know what we are looking to apply for as far as grants. So we can report that, and probably in the next publishing of this, in 12 months, we can include an indicative grant that we would wish to apply for, whether we get it or not. It's another. Some of this we've already been notified we have got grants for, so we could also get that.
It's also just useful for us to have a sense about whether we're getting what we might consider our fair share of black spots funding, vulnerable road users, again, for us to have some visibility
and
of that.
It's definitely it's lumpy.
We're so dependent on that.
We really are. And we try and flag it ahead of time with the state too, to give them really good line of sight as to what we're thinking as well. So certainly happy to, well, we can include that here. First question was about crash data. Similarly, we will look to include that next report that we do in 12 months. Similar sort of thing across the city, so we can do that for sure.
Fantastic. Look, we might just wrap up the elected member question and discussion there, but I would invite any members of the public in the crowd, if they wish to ask a question about this particular item, that now is the time to come forward. No, it looks like we have no questions from the public. Oh, sorry, we do. We do. Mr. Merridew.
I'm sorry, I was thrown a bit by a particular item. I have some items which I'd like to ask questions.
This is not a council meeting, so this is a workshop. If you wish to ask about this particular issue that we're talking about, that's fine.
Well, it's to do with bike paths and traffic and such things. Is that the issue we're talking about or not?
I think we can squeeze that in, yes.
Okay. Just give me a second to fire
Do we need a microphone for Mr. Merridew?
Well, are you happy for me to stand here and speak to you here?
Yeah.
That's fine. It's just for the purpose of the recording.
Okay. Thank you, Lord Mayor and Acting Chairman. I have asked before as to why 23 Liverpool Street parking spaces outside the Royal Hobart Hospital were made into a bicycle path. And I was given the answer, the decision was made in 2019. Now, the reason I'm before you tonight is that I have just spent 2 weeks as a carer for a member of my family who is, he can stand, walk, but he must always take a walker with him. So every visit to a pathologist or his GP or a specialist or a restaurant or anything else is governed on the capacity to park nearby and get easy access. And I, as a relatively fit fellow, feel very sorry for his
Can we just get to the question,
wife.
Mr. Merridew?
Now, the issue is this, that I am asking, and this is my question, will these Hobart City Council aldermen review their 2019 decision to make all 23 spaces on Liverpool Street outside the Royal Hobart Hospital be opened as available for parking, and that at least 6, being 25%, are blue surfaced disabled parking with engineering of gutterless curbing. Curbing. That is the question 1. Question 2 is based on, whilst I was attending the Hobart Cenotaph yesterday, the service for the celebrations of the 85th Memorial Battle of Britain, which was punctured not by the noise of low-flying Spitfires, but the continuous presentation of sirens of emergency vehicles entering Campbell Street for their destinations of obviously urgent need. In light of the considerable delay caused by these emerging responding vehicles by regularly attempting to enter Campbell Street during busy times, often crossing the footpaths to do so under the new restrictions of roadway surface caused by the lightly used cycle path, and being mindful that the purpose of sirens and other traffic management is to get these responders to their place of need, that my question is, I ask the councillors and aldermen to review their earlier actions and that the cycle path on Campbell Street between Melbourne and Liverpool to be removed to enable rapid and safe passage for the emergency vehicles constantly entering Campbell Street from Melbourne Street. I understand every minute counts.
Thank you, Mr. Merridew. We will take both those questions on notice.
The third question is, noting that Collins Street, and this is the last one I promise, noticing that Collins Street intersecting with Harrington and Barrack Street, which the Barrack Street has 2 lanes, is exactly the same width at Harrington Street. There are two laneways exiting to the west and south of Barrack Street. There is only one such lane at Harrington Street. My question is, will the council review their original decision and provide a right turn second lane at Harrington Street? Admittedly, it will be stepped back a little to allow the buses that come from Harrington into Collins that swing very close to the Coffee on Collins parklet, but nevertheless it will improve traffic flow from that intersection by at least 50% time-wise, hence a reduction in emissions caused by the current capacity for vehicles to idle much longer because there is only one gate to get out to that intersection. Thank you, Alderman and Councillors.
Thank you, Mr. Merridew. That will be taken on notice as well.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
All right. Well, I think I need an elected member to move the motion for the item that we were just discussing. Councillor Dutta, thank you. All right, I guess we'll vote on that motion. All in favour?
Aye.
All against? It's passed. Thank you. We now move into the workshop portion of the meeting. I'll just remind elected members that no decisions are made during this workshop. The first item up for workshopping is the Creative City Strategy. So I'll invite the Manager of Creative City and the Director of Community and Economic Development just to come to the table, present their presentation and introduce the item.
Thank you, Chair. Elected members will be aware one of the annual plan items is the preparation of a creative city strategy. So as part of that, staff have engaged Inkhorn Projects, Tony Bonney and Simon Spain to prepare that strategy. And tonight we're going to receive a presentation from Tony and Simon on the work they've done so far. Afterwards, there'll be opportunity for questions from elected members.
Thank you. Tony and Simon, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, elected members and councillors, for this opportunity to go through where we are at. This is just the starting point of the process. So there's a few things to discuss. The team, just very briefly, the team responsible for running this process, which will be completed in March next year, is myself and Simon and Emalia Al-Gadri assisting with some of the community consultation. The tasks that were given to us, which I'll just kind of remind you of, is to review the current City of Creative Hobart strategy, look at how a new Creative City strategy would incorporate events and activation, as that currently doesn't have a policy around it. Also to look at the gaps and opportunities provided by a holistic Creative City strategy with emerging creative practices such as City of Literature. Also in that is contemporary music, and how as a Creative City of benefit to the City of Hobart economy and community. Also through this, we'll be developing a new partnership framework to potentially increase return on the council's investment in arts and cultural activity, and also to better define the roles and of venues the roles of venues in creative spaces, and of particular interest there is spaces like the City Hall. Very briefly, the methodology that we're using is called a co-creation process, where we basically do a significant amount of consultation both inside the council and within the community and within the sector to help generate ideas and opportunities, and then we have a secondary level of engagement where we test those ideas with the community and with the sector. The other framework that we're using is the UNESCO Cultural Measures Framework, which is just recently been updated. And I'm also undertaking a fair bit of work with the state government, state growth about this, and looking at what sits within what we call arts and culture. And using the UNESCO definition, we're looking at cultural and natural heritage, visual arts and craft, books and press, audiovisual and interactive media, design and creative services, plus tourism and sports and recreation all can figure into the culture and creativity of a city. These areas, these realms of activity are also underpinned by cultural heritage, education, training, practice and documentation, and the resources that support those. So it's a very broad definition of what arts and culture can be. And the timeline for us, we've already got one red line ticked off, which is great. That's where we are now. Getting into stage two, finish stage two at hopefully 6 o'clock this evening. That is the presentation to ELT and your elected members. And then pretty much from September to December, we start community and sector consultation. And there's a range of programs happening there. We will start drafting the final strategy in December for distribution and review to come to council, I believe, in late February, March for adoption for the next financial year. So that's the process, and fortunately we seem to be tracking well with that. And I will now pass you over to Simon.
So we've got three elements of the engagement process. We've got a survey, community survey going out in a couple of weeks' time. One for the public, one specifically for traders, and one for young people. And one for young people, sorry. We've got three elements going out: community survey, traders survey, and one for young people, 12 to 18-year-olds. We've got some community and sector workshops. So back to the children one again, we're doing something at TMAG for children and families. We're doing one for young people. We've got 2 internal workshops within council. And once our draft is there, we will have feedback on that draft strategy in February for completion in March. Oh, sorry, I'll get it. Thank you. So what is a creative city? Well, we've done quite a bit of work on this and already presented to council on this. And we've just picked out here 7 elements of interest that we did some looking at creative cities around the world and via desktop research, obviously. And, you know, there are some key things around creative cities. They all have a strong sense of identity about who they are, and they know what they are. Most of them have an identifiable hub or district or precinct of the arts. They're all accessible spaces. Most of them have something very specific for children and families. That's something that's really grown in the last probably 20 years. Support for emerging and early career pathways. If you don't have people making stuff in the city, you can't just show stuff in the city. You need to get creatives into the city because they create a great vibe. You need capacity building, strategic investments, alliances, and partnerships with others. You cannot do the whole thing on your own. You need to build partnerships with others, and they will want to build partnerships with council. And you need to take on board, it's about sharing knowledge and information. Coffee houses originally were the place where people came together to talk about ideas and sharing. Why do we want a creative city? Well, they're livable. The livable cities around the world are creative cities. They do give direct economic benefit. I can't point to those numbers right now, but they're there. A significant contribution to the nighttime economy is something that we very specifically want to think about within the context of Hobart. Obviously, an attractor for tourism. We just need to look at why people come, one of the reasons people come to Hobart. Social cohesion, inclusion, resilience, mental health, all of those things are very important, that people can engage in culture, arts and culture. And as Tony said, we have a very broad view of that. It's not just about opera, it is about a whole range of the way people engage in arts and culture. And mental health and health is obviously pretty critical. So we've got some questions for you, and that's why we're here today, to hear your opinions primarily. And we've put 3 questions up to make it straightforward. What do you want to see change or develop through a revised creative city strategy? What are the opportunities going forward for the city? And there are various ones that we've kind of identified around children, perhaps music venues, late night, heritage, environment, engaging with the Tasmanian community of Tasmania, and Antarctica is even a potential creative area. And what are the challenges that the city faces in terms of arts and culture? So those, Chair, are the 3 questions I'd like to put to the members today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the presentation, both of you. Look, we'll open it up for debate from the elected members, and I guess it's for questions or comments, this particular item. So is there anyone who'd like to start us off? Alderman Bloomfield.
Okay. Some of the things when you're talking came to me straight away. One of them is the establishment of playgrounds for children. We actually have at least one that I know of that's been ready to be built, but no grant money for it. That's in Trafalgar Place. We need to get those in there that brings young families back in, and we've stopped. It's been stagnant for quite some time, and that's difficult because then that brings in that younger element, and then starts to socialise them into being in the area, and then it kind of grows from there. The other thing was, I think we have to look at developing nighttime economy hand in hand with safety. There was another project that we were looking at for the last couple of years where we're looking at like a light walk such that there'd be some kind of like a road of light that you could follow as a footpath that would kind of take you safely to the car parks and things like that, because not only do they attract people, but they also basically make people generically feel safer. So that's something that I think would really help enormously. It could be that particularly, say, the mall where it's renowned for not feeling safe, that we could really make some profound change. And then talking about lights in general, it's always been a marketing response that I've utilised with clients over many years, that if you want more people to come to your shop, you put lights in the windows, you know, downlights that just make your window really bright comparative to everyone else, because everyone tends to be attracted to it. They kind of want to be there. They start looking. So, and I believe in France, I mentioned it a workshop or two ago, that they've become renowned for City of Lights because their councils actually put money into an awful lot of fairy lights, and every single business that was open at night would actually have this perfunctory set of lights over their doors and windows, so everyone knew that that place was particularly open at this particular time, so that it created like that conversation for people to engage. So, and they've been quite effective to the point where they're actually looking at toning it back because there's so much light now that it's become actually a nuisance. But the point was that we can do that well, we can do it carefully. You know, things like downlights and particularly directional lights now, you don't have quite the light pollution now that we used to. So there's things like that I believe we could. I'm equally concerned too that we don't want to make this all about another 50 coffee shops. We already have 401 licences established in this area. That's absolutely an oversupply, and it's showing in the numbers. We need to actually kind of like allow and entertain the diversity of business and services and so forth. There are many other ways that we can get people to engage and be entertained and to do things in the city. And it's things like, look, when I look back at my childhood, for instance, you know, we all used to, part of the centre of the city was going to the fountain in Catton Fiddle. Like, you know, water plays a big one, but we have none. We used to have the pirate ship after we lost the water play, we had the pirate ship, and that was a draw card, and now we don't have that either. And my kids hated the installation near the Argyle Street car park. They didn't know how to play with it, they didn't know how to engage. It might be pretty, but it's not doing its job. And that's all we have left, other than a couple of little statues of wombats and things, which also very limited with their engagement potential. So that's kind of where I'd like to look at leaning to. You know, the other elements are probably more about if we create the environment, the businesses will come. We shouldn't be basically designing and saying we must have these businesses. It's up to them to decide to turn up, but it's up to us to create an environment where they want to actually engage with us. So that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you, Alderman Bloomfield. Councillor Sherlock.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much for your presentation, much appreciated. I just thought I'd maybe touch on one of the challenges.
Sorry, Councillor Sherlock, you're going to need a microphone.
This one?
Yeah. Sorry, we took your seat.
Oh, no, that's okay. I'll come over here then. Sorry, I'm going to see if we can put this down. Is that all right? Thank you. Just the last question, what are the challenges that the city faces? I think one of the interesting things for me has been having conversations with individuals from different parts of the creative world, and just some of the commentary maybe around, does the City of Hobart value creative work, art? And sometimes it's as though we don't as a council, and I think that message of what is the importance of it as a city, as a community, and businesses, and all of those things that you were talking about statistics earlier on, to include that within the framework for, the value add, or what is the value of it in that sense. And not just from a monetary point of view, but that social infrastructure point of view.
Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Sherlock. Councillor Harvey.
Thanks, Tony. What's your name again? Sorry?
Simon.
Simon, thanks, Simon. I'd just like to touch on the youth activity, especially Youth Arts and Recreation Centre, which I'm very attached to. I'd like to think that we can potentially boost that somehow. It's a successful operation that's been going for 250 years or something now, so I'd like to think it rolls on for it, but that's been going for decades. I don't know the period, but it's a long time, and now there's a second generation of people coming through there, kids whose parents attended that facility. So for me, as part of the cultural strength of Hobart, that's a really vital component. I'd like to think that could live on potentially in other locations if need be, but I'm particularly fond of that location. So I think making sure Youth Arts and Recreation always has a permanent home, potentially elsewhere if there was a significant place it could go that was as good, if not better, than where it currently is. So I'm confident that we could do something additional to what happens there to make that an even better facility and encourage more people to use it and to promote it in a way that it gets the recognition it's due.
Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Harvey. We have Councillor Posselt up next.
Thank you for your work as well. I reread the 2023 report just before I came in today, starting about 3:15, and it kind of felt that we've been letting the team down, letting the side down when it comes to creative cities and creative cultures. When I reread that report, it was a report that we received in the first couple of months as me being a councillor, so I didn't realise quite how bad it was. And it is kind of damning if you actually go back and read word for word. And I think the three questions you've brought this evening are really thought-provoking, and I might do them in reverse. So I think some of the challenges that the city faces when it comes to being a properly creative city and a creative city that artists feel free and empowered to do their work and are paid well, but also a city where average Joe can connect with art. I think that historically in Tasmania, the connection with art is poor across the whole state. And that may stem from historic educational attainment stuff as well. There's big social issues here, but how can we draw in people from other areas of town outside of Hobart City, whether that's down Huon Valley or the Valley of Love, Derwent Valley, and get them to experience what true art and culture is. And of course, with that brings opportunity for those people as individuals, it brings opportunity for artists, and it creates a vibrant, thriving city. And one of the challenges that I think that we face in that space is that we've really poorly planned an arts precinct in our city. And that's been since 1800s. It's not a recent thing, but they've kind of developed organically. So Salamanca Arts Centre on one side of the docks, and then the UTAS School of Arts on the complete opposite side of the docks. The attempt to somehow get Wapping to develop into a creative arts hub where it doesn't really have artist vibes, it has TSO vibes and professional theatre company vibes, but it doesn't have the kind of grunge element that you get in true creative precincts when you go to the amazing cities around the world that do understand how to, or maybe their arts precincts have developed in the same way ours has. It's just that they've developed out of slum areas and slowly gentrified into these amazing artist hubs. But I think that's one of the key issues that we face is centralisation of the arts, a place where a creative person can go and just be with their people and let all of the creativity flow and projects start. This is how art works. This is how all sorts of amazing projects start. They're seated just by people, as you said, sitting around a coffee shop, but they're in the same area. That's the key thing. And so I wonder what opportunities we have to create that precinct. It's challenging. I don't think I would throw to officers, but I don't think Central Hobart Precinct Plan names up any cultural precincts, does it?
It does.
Whereabouts?
Well, the area around City Hall it calls up as being a City Hall.
Yeah, which again doesn't quite have for me it doesn't quite have that element of small studio spaces where people with limited income can be creative. A lot of those types of artists, Tom O'Hearn is a relatively well-known artist that works in that space down here, and he works out of St John's campus in the old orphanage, because that is the type of grunge space that artists thrive in. And I'm not sure that City Hall does provide that. And I don't think it ever will, because we don't have the built environment around it. But where we do have a lot of this type of grungy small space is in our shop tops. And we talk a lot about shop top housing, but we know that the Australian Building Code will not support these places being turned into homes. But having toured St John's campus and seen what the studios look like, certainly a lot of shop tops would be in better shape than what artists are working out of at St John's. So I wonder if there's opportunity to create a corridor, like Elizabeth Street as a corridor of shop top artist studios. I don't know if that's the right corridor, maybe it's in North Hobart, but trying to find these spaces that are underutilised that we can activate, I think that's one of the key things. And I guess the only other thing that I would say, bearing in mind I'm running out of my time, is that I noted in the 2023 report some of the commentary around separate institutions being responsible for delivering things that in Tasmania we've done things a bit differently. So mainland, many councils run their libraries, for example, and that provides opportunity for all sorts of creative endeavours, writing courses, all sorts of things. But because we've somehow segregated libraries into Department of Education and outside of councils, council actually has very little direct dealings with the cultural community. We don't run an art gallery, we don't run a library. The best we've got is Mather's House, and so in City Hall if we develop that. But how do we get those institutions to play better with us? How do we work more collaboratively with the TMAGs, the TSOs, the library? Is there any body that pulls us all together into the one room and says, hey, guys, this is what we want to achieve, how do we achieve it? Because I don't think there is. Everyone's just operating in their own space and it's super inefficient. And it's leading to, it also, because no one's coordinating, leads to gaps. And you've identified the children's aspect. Art Play in Melbourne's a terrific example of what you can do with art and children when you combine the two. And TMAG do a reasonable-ish job of it. They do, but if they could coordinate with us and use some of our poorly utilised spaces, our parklands, our open spaces better. So I just think it's a really, really big project. And it was, as I said, reading the 2023 report was really concerning actually for my vision of what our city should be in 10 years' time. I was like, geez, we're starting well behind where other people are. So I guess that's my long version of what I think should happen.
Thank you, Councillor Passelt. We have the Lord Mayor next, followed by Alderman Bloomfield, and then Councillor Kelly.
I might start with question number one. I guess I want to see sort of magic new ideas that fix all our challenges, and I'm sure it's not easy to do that. I think the UNESCO network thing is a new thing, so and it does link us into that international network. So, I presume a revised creative city strategy should acknowledge that and look at literature in its broadest sense rather than just authors, but playwriting and interesting performance poetry and those kind of things. In terms of opportunities, I think the opportunities, one of the areas of opportunity that I sort of feel is missing at the moment is that there are actually, I think, 3 arts centres in our municipality, and I don't feel that community arts spaces, so Kickstart Arts, Soho Arts Centre and the Salamanca Arts Centre, which for a fairly small city, it's there's that's quite a significant number of real estate, and I appreciate that there's also shop tops and these kind of things, but really that kind of real estate is pretty valuable, and I'm not sure. I don't have enough sense about whether they're coordinating as 3 arts centres, whether they're open enough. Like the Soho one, for example, feels more like an office building than an arts centre. But again, we don't necessarily have, I'm not sure what influence we have in that space, but whether we can utilise some of our funding to sort of help make the most of those spaces. I know there's also Terrapin that has got ideas for exciting new development, so I would think that's another really important opportunity. The challenges are considerable, and I don't like to always blame the state government, but I think we have to. I will. I think we have to recognise that the funding opportunities for the arts and cultural sector in Tasmania are pretty woeful from the state level. I think we spend less on the arts than we do on greyhound racing. It's less than $20 million a year for all of those institutions, including TMAG and TSO. $9 million. I mean, it's pathetic, really. And many of the other state capitals and to a certain extent big regional capitals get subsidised galleries. They get I was at the Cairns Regional Gallery, that's all supported by state government grants. They have acquisition budgets, like poor old TMAG can't even buy stuff. And so we don't have a state theatre company, we don't have a state dance company, or if we do, they're always in Launceston, we never see them.
We don't have a sprung dance field in the whole of Tasmania.
So like we're trying to do the best we can on the basis of trying to fix up what is some fundamental problems that are bigger than just the city of Hobart. So how do we kind of do more with less? I mean, or is there a better way we can be using our little bit of funding? Can we, I would like to increase funding, but we have to sort of sell that to the community, and we still have to kind of point out that, we're never going to be able to fund a state theatre company. But, I mean, there's also the concern that is a national problem around artists, and it's not just giving them spaces, they need people to buy their work and appreciate their work. And if you don't have institutions that can acquire things or commission new plays or commission new artworks, then you've got to then move to other cities where there's a bigger philanthropic sector or people and institutions that are actually commissioning work. We also in Tasmania don't have yet have the legal protocols that allow cities to ask for artworks to be included into developments, which we did tackle that a few years ago, and council rejected the idea of acting on that because of concern that we would be, that would be challenged in the planning scheme. So yeah, there's very little, there's just, I know creativity isn't just about money, but money does grease the wheel. So how do we find either new sources of money or, do things in a cleverer way? But I think the challenges of lack of funding in the arts sector are significant, and are probably going to get worse because of the state government in particular having, some significant financial challenges. So we somehow have to be smarter, and real estate is certainly something that seems, with all these arts centres, it does seem like that's certainly potentially one of the easier things. But yeah, how do we? The question is, how do artists get paid for their work. And if there's creative ways around tackling that, would love to hear it. Yeah, I think they're the main things. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Lord Mayor. We move on to Alderman Bloomfield.
Sorry, I just wanted to add a few. I'm really glad that you mentioned all those because I was sitting here going, but there's all these groups. I grew up through UTAS. All my friends were doing fine arts, so I kind of got very connected into that arena back in the 80s, all the way through 90s and the 2000s. And Hunter Street, UTAS, why are we missing them off the map? That's huge. And in particular, Dark Mofo used to always include them. And did you notice how they haven't in the last few years? It was really disappointing.
My understanding is their enrolments are
They're down,
really tanking because people aren't enrolling in arts.
And that's a lot because they're not getting the voice and so forth. So it's like it's unfortunate, it's a very negative cycle, isn't it, there? But there was things like that because I remember, if you wanted to hang out with other artists, you'd go to Salamanca, you'd go and hang out at the Peacock Theatre. I mean, that was where the hive was. You have Founders Room even to this day, and all the little tiny things. They can rent that out, they can have their functions, and you can trial new jazz, whatever you want to hear. All that kind of stuff happens through there. You want to connect to artists, all these tiny galleries trial things out, and unfortunately through the whole of Elizabeth Street there's been a number of them where either there's been an artist in residence who's attempted it with his own gallery and his own works, or there's been galleries that have tried a few bits and pieces and they don't last long because there isn't the money, as we know. But there was a funding point of view that we probably haven't thought of. It's a bit left of field, and that was we're almost there getting this Lord Mayor's charity fund. Why can't we have one of the channels to be investing in this? So that's, that way the very people who are genuinely interested can say, well, look, I want to donate and it's going to go into that channel, and then we can get another festival out, we can do all those other things. So there's a possibility. But that's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Bloomfield. We move on to Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. Did you reference much the Greater Hobart Cultural Venue Study?
I wrote it.
Did you? Yeah. Okay. So in that, in the year 2020, you clearly identified that the Hobart does not have a cultural precinct. So has that changed in your opinion?
No, not really. No,
it hasn't.
no.
Okay. Exactly my point. And look, this is complex. We just can't blame council for everything, I guess. But I will say the following, because I have rented spaces to the arts people, taking them on board. You've got to have a way to do that in upstairs spaces and back spaces and all that, which surround the State Cinema. And it's just almost impossible now for these people to pay a landlord, being the landlord. It just simply does not stack up. And I'll give you an example. Beck Gallery came up from Salamanca. Dick Bett I knew, and they were there in the early 80s and all that sort of stuff. They just got priced out of it because it becomes such a dynamic force they create around that, and they just get priced out of coffee shops and other people wanting to be in that vibey area. They came to North Hobart and they got priced out of North Hobart and ended up in a very cheap space on an upper level of the building where we know where they are. The BCA, the Building Code of Australia, you just cannot comply. So to say some fanciful idea of, we'll put them in the shops above North Hobart, right here, right now, I tell you, it doesn't stack up. I've tried it. I've tried doing cheap rent. It still doesn't. And then there's all the parking issues that are now being created. Creators need vans typically.
Yep.
Loading, unloading. It's almost impossible. And they've been outpriced, outparked, and that's why they're drifting out into these other areas. Norfolk, they're getting the routes into places like that. We've seen them go to Moona, and even Moona's getting priced. But the big killer is that Building Code of Australia, compliance with upstairs, fire, all that. The parking's the other real big issue. It's just too damn expensive. We can sit here and navel gaze as much as we want, and City Hall is just a big barn. But I know there's things to move there to look at that, and you can't, as someone said here tonight, you can't create these areas for the creators. A gyprock white painted wall, and it's just not conducive. And I don't have all the answers here either. I've been at the real pointy end of it and I've seen firsthand. I'm just saying you've sort of priced yourself out of the market, you've coded yourself out of it, and it's bloody hard to do it, you know. And we've seen it's not only with the arts, as we just spoke about an hour or so ago, the people moving to Cambridge, you know, here's Tas Police moving, and all that. The city is becoming very dead. Culturally and business-wise, it is becoming extremely dead. And that's complex. I'm not here to point the finger at any individuals here tonight, but...
I'm glad you're not blaming me.
No, good luck, though.
Thank
and
you.
I've been in the creative industry for 22 years.
Yeah.
And at all ends of it, and it's bloody complex. And this venue studies is an excellent study you did on it, and an excellent touchstone, and you know firsthand. I don't know, do you have any quick wins here we can do? You know, I mean, it's bloody complex.
I do, but we have to drag out our consultancy to March to give you the surprise, you know, so I don't want to give it away just yet.
Okay, that involves money from the private sector?
I think there's a very clear opportunity for the city to work in partnership with the state government and private sector a lot more. Currently, it's a little bit piecemeal. So I think one of the things that we'd be looking at is how does the city work collaboratively with people, and you know there's some barriers to that, and all the building codes are a big part of that. So you know there's a whole load of things that council can do that might help other things happen. So
and we've just approved a gynecological place the other night in Wapping, Theatre Royal. It's Theatre Park. Now, great service they're offering and a great thing and all that, but you've got to ask the question, is that an appropriate business next to the Theatre Royal and the arts cultural precinct?
Yeah.
I personally don't think so, but hey, that's not for me to say. The BCO is the BCO, or the planning schemes. The planning scheme, you can put McDonald's there if you want to, you can put a ladies' health centre, but
you can't put artists.
what have we done? What has this council gone out and done to bring in the creatives and say, hey, even in a forum or a get-together meeting, we've done it with climate, we've done it with plenty of other things, but here we are crying in our beer that nothing's happening and it's becoming dead as we look at it. It's getting worse and worse. And that sort of thing happens up in Wapping. The big saving place for Hobart. Sorry, it's just not stacking up, and I don't see any green shoots of...
No.
Unless you've got some evidence to say to me, oh, we had a meeting or we had a forum or...
We have forums three times a year.
Have we had a summit on?
Yeah, no, I think there is opportunity. I think everyone wants to maybe change the way things operate. So I think it's trying to make sure everyone is positioned in the right way to do that.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Alderman Zuko.
Yeah, I was going to start with, doesn't matter what you do or what you don't do, there's a dollar factor to everything, and that's the reality of it all. Sometimes, and I look at my travels all around the world and around this country on a regular basis, sometimes things evolve as well. Because when you look at that question, what do elected members want to see change and develop through a revised creative strategy? That's what 12 people around the table are going to give you. What do the arts community want to see? It's not what 12 elected members, because I've just listened to state government bashing, right? The state government can only do so much. The Hobart City Council can only do so much. We've put money into Salamanca Arts Centre. We put money into Team Ed. We had the Hadley's Art Prize come to us and want to take over the major art events from this council, and this council refused it. Right? To my point of view, there's only one way in the reality of this economic climate is going down the track of seeing what we can get through the business community, not just in Tasmania, but across the country, because artists only survive by selling their products and wares and evolve from that. I've actually seen over the years that I've been here, I've seen the movement of the art areas. I saw North Hobart, they tried to take that into an art area. It didn't work because there's a dollar factor. Now, you know, we're talking about what Councillor Stott talked about, the area he was talking about. We're talking about how New Norfolk has evolved and evolving. Now, if it means that artists or whatever it is, car yards for that matter, need to move or evolve in different precincts, they need to. Now, you know, maybe Hobart is not the place for the art community anymore, because let's go back. Salamanca Arts Centre was there for the development of our artists. That's why that was developed. That's what happened. What's happened? Dollars and cents. So look, you know, we can sit there and want to provide you guys as experts in your field, as consultants, anything we want as 12 elected members, but you've got the reality. The reality is dollars and cents. Now, what I'd like to see, not change, but what I want to see is I want to see how the report can say we can target Coles, we can target Myer, we can target, I dare to say, our coal mining people in the world that have got a lot of money to try and provide the funds needed to wherever the artists feel comfortable in where they want to operate from. Because I personally think that if we're going to say we're going to operate in the middle of sorry, I've just gone blank with the park across here. Franklin Square. What we're doing is we're saying to the artists, well, that's where you're going to work. And I don't think that's the way to go, because I know a number of artists in Hobart, and I've been to their homes, and I've seen what they've done within their homes and that as well. So, you know, look, really, show me the money, and maybe we can provide more funds for the artists that can provide the work, because at the end of the day, they need to sell their product to survive. They're no different to a restaurant. They're no different to anybody else.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alderman Zuko. We've got Councillor Elliott coming up, and I think we might call an end to the elected member contributions at that point, if that's okay. I think everybody's had a go.
Lucky last. So I'll start with a few things that I would not like to see in the strategy, and then go on to what I would like to see. So things I would not like to see is any sort of direct or indirect increase in rates to fund handouts. I would not like to see that. I would not like to see you lobby the state government for heaps of money. And I would not like to see, this area is our arts area, and that's where the art happens, because I believe that things should happen much more organically than that, and I think it can be a deterrent. Yeah. So those sort of prescriptions, and yeah, I just don't want that. In no particular order, I think, and this crosses over with our grant space, but in our creative grants, I would much rather see us do less grants of higher value. At the moment we give out, I've seen things, you know, like $1,000 for screaming poetry and $1,000 for interpretive dance. And I've looked into those activities to see what has actually come of that money. And it's really quite disturbing sometimes, because I've seen $5,000 handed out for this, and it was a YouTube telecast thing that's had 13 views. And so any money that we hand out under any guise, but especially under creative, my perspective, it has to deliver something either enduring, it has to be around for years, you know, like some sort of physical thing, a mural, whatever, or it has to have a bigger, a decent audience. It can't be neither of those things. It's one or the other. I would absolutely not want to see, you know, little fleeting activations or just pissy things. I'd rather put the money into bigger stuff that's around for longer. I think we've got a heap. Our biggest opportunity is absolutely our venues. Like Mawson's place is sitting there, it's locked up all the time. I would love to see the council with its in-kind support say, hey, because there's so many people that are hobby artists, including myself, people that could come and say, hey, council, you're having an open weekend, bring your home art, or, you know, BYOA, bring your own art, and come and we can have a setup, you know, like once a weekend of a month or something like that. We just have to invest in some sort of infrastructure and a staff to open up, lock up, whatever. So at the moment, obviously, people like the Art Society and different groups would book things out for exhibitions, but let's make it much more accessible for everyday people. And, you know, where the art's available it sells for $20, you know, because that would activate that area and whatever else. City Hall is obviously a massive, just dead zone, complete lost opportunity there. That's such an opportunity cost that it's really intolerable just having it sitting there like that. Even if we can do EOIs for some sort of art group, you know, you can get those partitions. Why can't the City Hall be partitioned in the middle into 6 studios, open air or something? Like, let's just make it bloody happen. Also, opportunity in terms of land. We own Dunn Street Car Park. Why don't we do an EOI and have the arts precinct, you know, like how in Salamanca where you've got all the little shops and the arts centre, all the little studios. Why we can't do that on the ground floor of Dunn Street, opposite, and bring it all together? We've got the land directly behind us, near Mawson's place and what's that area?
Civic Square.
Civic Square.
Yeah.
It's not very civic at the moment. It's a car park. But we can do stuff with that. So I think we've got heaps of opportunities in terms of our facilities. It doesn't cost us money. I wholly support in-kind support. I don't support cash handouts, and I completely don't want to see. I love the arts, I love art, but I do believe that if you can't make a commercially viable living from it, it's a hobby. You need to get a job, and that the government should subsidise you. If you can't sell your art, you can't just rely on grant after grant after grant and keep coming back to the council for $15 for your Nipaluna listening station. And on the issue of kids, I agree with Alderman Bloomfield. Kids and creativity doesn't really have anything much unless you pay $65 and send your kid off to a workshop. The things we do have are really completely unfit for purpose, like in Wollerton Court, where there's the little mini structures which give the appearance that they're to be engaged with. There's a big "do not climb" sign straight over the top. And then I've seen the pictures in Trafalgar of a big metal octopus, which I think was meant to be for kids, but sheet metal, heat, kids, sharp edges, doesn't really make any sense to me. I love the water play sort of idea. The mall is it's calling out for something like that, especially for kids. Whatever it is for kids, if it was water, it would have to be in a high traffic pedestrian area just to keep the boathings away from it because of whatever. So, yeah, just to summarise, the enduring activities, we fund enduring stuff or big audience stuff. If it's fleeting and it's got low touch, then it shouldn't get a look in. Let's condense what we do. Venue hire, we've got empty spaces. There's really no excuse for that, and I think that could be easy wins. Kids, and I would really like to see it accessible for everyday people. It doesn't have to be, professional artists. How's that?
Thank you.
All right, just one last quick contribution from the Lord Mayor. Just trying to move things along.
Yeah, very quickly, just for the CEO, I'm just wondering whether we could circulate, because I'm not sure we got in part of the report what we're currently doing. I know the Inkhorn report had some things from 2023, but I'm just wondering whether the staff could perhaps give us a summary of, how many venues we are.
Yep. The current state.
Yeah, and also just like Councillor Kelly mentioned about forums, and so I'm just, because I know Creative Hobart does do about 3 forums a year, so just a chance for us to get a sense of the things we currently are doing.
Yeah, no, we can provide that. There's also a pretty significant report on City Hall that's been prepared that will come forward as well. So,
yeah.
So we can provide that.
Fantastic. Well, that brings us to the end of the elected members section. If there are any members of the public who wish to ask questions related directly to the Creative City strategy, now is your opportunity. No, okay. All right, well, that moves us on from that item. So we move on to...
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, you too, actually. Sorry. We move on to 7.2, the memorials policy. I'd just like to invite the manager of Creative City up again and the Director of Community and Economic Development to present the item.
Thank you, Chair. Item 7.2 is the memorials policy. As elected members may recall, this item was workshop last on the 11th of August with elected members, and at that workshop, two major changes were requested to be made of the policy, which have now been made and incorporated into the material provided tonight. I guess just in summary, before there's any questions and open for workshopping, the two changes essentially, one was in section 4.15 of the policy, which talked about how proposals outside the scope of this policy will be dealt with. Essentially, anything that's outside the scope of a memorial that memorialises a past event or person will be dealt with through a report to council. So if it's outside that scope and it's a broader memorial or request, it will be a report to council that will be go through a process separate to this policy. The other big changes that were made were in the terms of reference. So the terms of reference had a previous section titled decision making. So we've changed some of the wording in that part of the terms of reference to note that the advisory group that will assess proposals is not a decision making body, it's a recommendation making body. And hence that section has been retitled Making Recommendations, and it goes into some of the details of how recommendations will be made, but also how a consensus will be met within that advisory group for all the proposals that come to it. So the group will try and reach a consensus. In the very unlikely situation where a consensus can't be reached, that'll be noted in the advisory group's recommendations to the council, and the council will make that decision if it's a tough one. But again, we don't foresee any of the proposals that come through. We'll get to that point, but it's just put in there as a safeguard. The other changes that are made to that part of the terms of reference are around cultural content and consultation that will occur. So if any cultural groups puts a proposal forward, it talks about how that will be dealt with. Again, it'll be done through consensus, and there'll be a decision made by the group and the members of that advisory group how they will assess those proposals that have a strong cultural significance across all various cultural proposals. And they're the main changes that were made since the 11th of August. And if there's any other, happy to take questions or discussions, and Justine's here also to assist with anything that we may have.
Fabulous, thank you. Look, I'll open up for debate, but I will make the point that this is a part two, so we're just really debating, I think, the changes that you brought back to us that you made in response to our requests. So feel free to talk about what you like, but just in the interest of moving along quickly, I just wanted to point out that this is our second bite of the cherry on this one. So we'll throw open for discussion. Anyone who wishes to make a comment or ask some questions? Councillor Elliott.
Just a high level one to start with. Why have we've got the policy, then we've got the eligibility criteria. Why is the eligibility criteria standalone rather than in the policy?
I think it was sort of differentiating what was the policy and what was the procedure. So, I mean, they work together, but the policy is more the higher level decision making that goes into it, whereas the eligibility gets a bit more into what process we go through to make someone eligible. That's the thought process behind it.
Okay, I can understand the logic of that thought process, but that's not how the documents appear, because there's a lot of duplication. What's in the policy is also in the eligibility criteria. Literally they're like duplicated, and maybe with a couple of new things, and the eligibility criteria isn't really clear on the delegation for whether it's tree, plaque, memorial, like statues and stuff like that. I've got a lot of small things which I don't think change the content largely, but I think I might have a meeting with you guys to go through all the small stuff rather than take it through the table. But it doesn't change overall the meaning. One thing I did want to bring up though is at the last meeting I brought up what I thought was the disparate treatment between, we were talking about an Aboriginal perspective versus a descendant or a colonial perspective. And I'm pleased to also see that you've moved the voting of the reference groups out of. But at the moment I was just hoping you could explain to me, under making recommendations in the terms of reference, so page 3, it says that third paragraph down, where there is strong cultural content, history implied in the proposal's outcome, at least one member of the identified cultural community will be invited to sit on the advisory group. Okay, so we know that's how one side will be treated or managed, for lack of a better word. The advisory group may request, and then 5th paragraph down, the advisory group may request further community engagement from the applicant of a particular proposal as, or if required, to inform a recommendation. This, on occasion, may include persons with a family and or social connection to a memorial. So just compare and contrast, that's saying that the strong cultural content person will be invited, whereas the person with a family or social connection may include. So they're still being treated differently.
Yeah. So I guess some wording there around if, you know, how we include both those groups into that process. So
well, the principle I'm putting forward is they should be treated equally and the same, and it's still not equal or the same.
Yeah, well, happy to change, mass out some of the wording in that section to make sure.
I mean, other elected members might have a view on that. I think Councillor Purcell is highly likely to disagree, whereas I think that both those two sides of the coin should be treated equally, and it's still not equal.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that can be amended.
But then, just so I don't have to talk again, like I said, I'll early this week make a time to meet with you guys to go through the tiny stuff.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Councillor Etton. Yeah, the CEO's confirmed that's fine. Lord Mayor.
So which part of the, can you tell me which part you were talking about, Councillor Elliott?
In terms of reference, page 3.
Oh, terms of reference, so this isn't the policy.
No, terms of reference.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it, with these situations, because I will disagree, and I do think there's a fundamental difference between a family or descendants of a family when, you know, there may be differences of perspectives in a family group. So I just think it opens up I mean, if a family donated something a few, you know, within living memory and, you know, there's a proposal to change it and we can contact those original members, then of course you'd want to involve them. But where it's potentially like the Crowther example, where there were descendants that were very comfortable with the work that the council did and there were descendants that weren't comfortable with the council did, I mean, how do you choose which family members? And ultimately, I mean, I think the decision around involving a cultural group is where you're potentially creating a new piece of work for that recognises a cultural event or heritage of significance to that group. Of course, you know, there's a different layer of involvement of that community. Like, for example, if it was about the Italian community in Hobart and establishing the Italian community, you would go to the you know, to the broad community organisations that represent that broader community and try and involve the community. Whereas, so I do think practically, you know, these are quite different cohorts, and so I would prefer that we don't try and be too prescriptive at this stage and just leave it to the professionalism of, you know, of the people you involve in this term, this reference group. I mean, there's going to have to be nuance here, and you can't put everything in black and white today. I mean, I think it's more about that there's best endeavours to involve people, but where you've got family members, for example, that see things differently, well, what do you do then? I mean, how far do you keep going? So I think there has to be a little bit of practicality and leaving it a little bit more at a higher level and allowing some judgments to be made on that in that respect. And I also just want to see what was the final. This is a separate point. A final decision on the kind of. There does seem to be a little bit of a contradiction here. So it says here that memorials must honour individuals, events and groups that are unique to the City of Hobart and broader Tasmania. But then it also says new memorial proposals must have a state, national or international significance. And I think there was... So I think, for example, I used an example of, if someone came to us and said, I've got this amazing idea for the most incredible international art memorial about penguins of Antarctica, which is not honouring an individual event or a group that's unique to the City of Hobart and Tasmania. But they sort of made the case that this is going to be, a big international attractor, and there's something that will really put Hobart on the map because it's unique. How do we allow for that with this policy?
So that was one of the new, this was based on the feedback from the last workshop.
Yeah.
So we did put in the proposals considered of outstanding value to the city. So it sort of gives you a little bit, that's 4.15.
4.15. Okay.
So I think...
I see.
Yeah, so obviously that's just taking your point before, if they didn't really sit within that local individuals, events and groups, and those our state, national, international, and they're a bit of a niche, but we still wanted to put it through the memorials advisory group, and that gives you another kind of catch-all if there was something really significant that we wanted to do.
I'm just wondering whether, do you need to reference that 4.15 in the 4.6, like say, unless it's,
possibly put them
I don't know.
next to each other.
Maybe you don't need to. Yeah. Because you're sort of saying it must, and then you're sort of saying down the track.
It's subject to 4.15
subject to
or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, were there any other questions or comments from around the table? There's none from the other members. I did have one question myself. Just how do we assess an application that involves significant ongoing costs? If there was to be a memorial built that had some special lacquer, for instance, that needed a lot of maintenance every year and it was going to cost a lot of money, is that built in at all to the process of making the decision?
Yeah. So through the eligibility criteria, all the costs have to be put through as part of the assessment. So, and in the eligibility criteria, it has got considerations such as the condition, ongoing costs. So they would be brought to council with all of those costs in mind, and it does note that the applicant is to bear those costs. We would look after future maintenance, but then obviously we need to know that it's not something that's going to be a huge cost to council.
Okay, no, that's great. Thank you. It keeps my mind at rest. Look, if there's no other, you have a question, Councillor Kelly?
Oh, look, it is a really hard space. And I learned firsthand with the female sculptures down on the roof at Mac 1, which is an idea I got from travelling in Ireland and seeing the feminist sculptures and coming back here and getting a tight group of people together to go down that journey, which is an 8-year project. And it was bloody difficult, and council was very hard to deal with at that time. That was a long time ago. And there was just no gateway or open door. I initially sent letters to the Lord Mayor at the time and all that, and it was just, I didn't even get responses. And it was only been revisited again another year or two later that, and it was council's initial seed funding that created the impetus for 4 other major donors, a $250,000 project, and it took off then. And it's just so hard to get members of the community who may have a good idea to go. There just, to me, doesn't seem a clear pathway for that, you know what I mean? And I know it's hard to do all that sort of stuff. It's expensive, these memorials, and the whole process is extremely arduous and all that. But we just seem to be losing a creativity along the way. And we're seeing this with what we were talking about previously with the arts community. You know, they're leaving Hobart. It's just so regulated and it's so hard, which is so counterintuitive for creative people. You know, if you wanted the sterility and the rigidness of rules, regulations, codes, applications, it just crushes the whole process, paradoxically. And I know there's good reasons why we've got to do that. I know there's reasons where reams and reams and reams of reports and papers to overarch all that, but it's just crushing. I just feel very deflated and it's not criticism of you guys, I'm just saying it's just a crushing experience to light that fuse of creativity for people, especially in the community and all that now. But I don't know, we've just got to, it's a tough one. You know? But we should speak to people who've done this stuff. There's no outreach to, well, so how did you find your experience doing this creation, stuff like that. You know, I don't know if we reach out enough at times for that, and I don't know, it's bloody hard, and I don't pretend it's an easy pathway, but I just think we're losing our way, you know. And right down to the point of Creative City, we decided that didn't even deserve a portfolio. Here we are, going, there's a dearth of all this, and what do? We wipe off the face of the earth with Creative City portfolio. To me, that says it all.
I'm not sure this is relevant for this particular witness again, Councillor Kelly. It certainly does tie in with earlier tonight.
And all that. So yes. I think they're intertwined. If you can't see them intertwining, I think you're missing the point too.
No, that's fine. Were there any other questions or comments around the table? All right, well, I think that brings us to the end of that item, so thank you very much for the presentation. And we'll move on to section 8, which is questions without notice. Do we have any questions without notice? Lord Mayor?
Just around there's been a couple of, I've only seen news reports but haven't seen the actual reports in detail. There's been some visitor accommodation related reports come out recently, whether we could get a bit of a summary of that from the perspective of staff, you know, just because I think maybe there were official data came out or something from Shelter, but just a bit of a summary of it for elected members and whether the staff's view from a housing perspective are concerned, or whether you know, just good to get a professional.
I don't think the reports were anything more than the cyclic reports that do come out. I'm not sure the cycle that they are now, but we can certainly put some commentary on what's been presented more recently.
Because I think I was at the Shelter 50th anniversary. They said they also had a report out recently on visitor accommodation, so maybe something.
Alderman Bloomfield.
Yeah, look, given the we've just seen she take up the Theatre World land space, and I think at the time we weren't able to find out whether or not that was considered to be a rate-free development or not. I actually think it's probably a good time to consider, you know, could we get a report that examines just how many places are considered rate-free in our CBD, and perhaps also one that does a comparative, say, to about, say, 10 years ago. I just want to know whether or not there's a trend. We certainly had the planning law just changed to encourage more of that through. So I think we need to be very careful, because if we start seeing a large number of rate-free premises throughout the CBD in the city, that's going to put a lot more pressure on ratepayers overall. And I think we need to be kind of just aware of what's going on, because that's something we need to plan for.
Yeah, so in terms of the question, first, we can definitely provide a report of current, rate exempt buildings or properties.
Is that a value, like how much rates we're forgiving?
Look, I'll take that on notice, but Michelle's can probably answer that. But in terms of the 10 years ago, I'd need to take that on notice to see whether we can provide that data. We certainly provide current data for sure.
Yeah, I just think we probably should be starting to be aware of it because we never used to see as many of the vinnies shops and all those things. That's become a real industry now. And I actually think it's going to start having a significant impact on rating overall, and I think we need to be aware of it.
All right, any further questions? Councillor Posselt.
Just a really quick follow-up question to that. Those, the criteria for rate exemptions are set by state government, are they not?
It's legislated, yeah.
Fantastic, right. Any more questions from around the table? No, that brings us to the end of questions without notice. We'd have to invite an elected member to move a motion to move us into closed. So moved, Councillor Posselt. Put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
All those against? Motion is moved. So we will adjourn the meeting and conduct the closed portion of the meeting shortly.